Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, Podcast Pete and lifestyle coach. And I have a coach, a coach that is hitting the highest levels. And I wanted to bring Mark to you, Dr. Mark Matthews. And for those that don't know you, Mark, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And then we'll get into our podcast.
Absolutely, Pete. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's always so much fun to spend time with you. And I just want to take one quick moment and recognize you. Your story is unbelievable. It's one that inspires us all. It's that classic story of to become a hero, which is something I've been centered on. You had a moment in your life that called you to a whole new level of identity, a whole new level of performance, but also contribution. And so for me, I have fallen in love with helping people answer their call to be the hero they're meant to be.
Mm.
That's what I spend my life doing. My PhD is in psychology. I focus on how do we build the identity necessary to have the impact that our destiny requires. And so I spend my days constantly coaching, training, teaching, serving, and most importantly, role modeling the way, setting and holding the standard of what it means to step up and have the heart that we need to move forward, to execute at the level we need to reflect meaningfully enough to have the lessons, and most importantly, to take the ownership, to own our destiny and serve the people we love.
I love it. I love it. I often see people out in the community, and we'll talk about, we take these physical showers that we're going to be clean, but we don't lean into a mental shower, personal growth. When in your life did you start leaning into that personal growth and that mental part of your journey?
Honestly, Pete, was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I got an early start in the game because when I was 9 years old, I watched from 6 to 9 years old the most important hero in my life, my mom, go from a vibrant, loving woman who read to me every single night, who hugged me, told me she loved me, even volunteered at my school and did everything she could to make sure that I lived a great life. I watched her go from that to defeated by the villain within, and then ultimately by the disease on the outside. And ultimately, I watched my mom pass at 9 years old. And when you see that happen, it's just like in a movie. It was real, just like that for me. That you watch something that is a tragedy that you know could have been prevented. You don't know how, but you know this is not how the story was supposed to go. And I decided at that young age of 9 years old that I was going to step up and be the man that my mom needed. I knew my dad was too broken, and that I assumed was part of the problem. And I said, I'm going to be that person. And from the moment that happened, people started treating me like I was. And so I embraced personal growth because, first of all, I had to. And I highly recommend you get into it before you have to. Because had my father gotten into it before he had to, I truly believe he could have led my mom through a battle with COPD. That's a livable disease. She could be here right now, but she was broken on the inside and he couldn't lead her. And so what breaks my heart is seeing where so many times we're not preparing for the inevitable call to an incredible contribution, a legacy, a destiny. And I got called to that at a young age. And as a result, I started requiring that in my guides. I started requiring that of my teachers. I started being this kid who would start telling you, I'm 11, I'm 10. It's like, I'm trying to be a hero. I lost my mom and I want to do something good with it. That's all I knew to say. But as soon as I said that once as a kid, all of a sudden teachers, they're like, I'm gonna make a difference in that kid's life. I'm gonna step up for that kid. And the truth is that while they stepped up for me, because when you lose a mom, everybody cares if they know. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But all my friends, because we tend to bond with people who've had the similar struggle to us. All my friends had different problems. Dads that were never there, addiction in their family that was leading to incredible poverty.
Mm-hmm.
But the teachers weren't treating them the same way. You see, the truth is we get called into personal development, but we need a guide immediately. You can't do it alone.
Yes.
And so immediately I answered the call. It was there for me. And then people could see that in my story and they invest in me. And my mission is to make sure that every child has that every person has that we all have someone who's walking with us on the journey and is holding us and orienting us towards that destiny that we're there to fulfill.
Ooh, I love that. I have a friend in my Rotary, and we talk about different mentors, and we talk about, just her journey. And she has three coaches. And, I was like, I'm not surprised one bit because she's performing at the highest level. What do you think when you hear about a person that invests in multiple coaches? It's always kind of like I can do it myself. The guys have this, like I can figure it out. What do you say to a person that has not experienced coaching and what is possible?
This is powerful. Actually, I'm gonna reference a quick story because I think this is common. In reality, there's a difference between a coach and someone who just tells you what to do. And what's really hard is that in the world that we live in today, people are saying that they're coaches when really all they're doing is telling you what they did in their own life and telling you to do the same thing. That is so far from coaching. It's unbelievable to me. Great
Mm.
coaches, like you and I were trained initially, our foundation is as certified high performance coaches under good old Brendan Burchard. I see the book, High Performance Habits, right there. That orientation of coaching is that my job is to step in and fall in love with crafting the challenges that develop my client into the best of who they are. And so what happens is for most people who are resistant to coaching, the reason is because they're not just resistant to coaching, they're resistant to trusting someone to walk on that journey with them. Usually that's because one, they've been exploited. Somebody was trying to help them, but they just told them what to do or they tried to control them. That could be parents, that could even be a friend that was a little older than you or even the same age, but they just had a mission and they liked you because you did what they said. That's common. That's a normal part of humanity. So I think the resistance comes to people wanting coaching because they haven't experienced a fantastic coach. A fantastic coach, what you realize is that they don't think they're above you. This isn't like, I did it, now you do what I did and you'll get what I got. That's BS. If people say that, it's not
Mhm.
true.
Yep.
Because there's the it factor that came out. Tony Robbins, we can do the exact same thing as him, but that doesn't mean we're going to get the same outcome because the world sees him differently. He's in a different story. So what happens is you have to learn the skill of discerning whether a coach is actually there for you. And a great coach has to teach you how to understand your own journey, the decisions you're making, and then empower you to be the driver of that destiny. And that will just challenge you to uphold the values that are actually being called upon you from
Mhm.
your desires, your life. And so, simply put, people shy away from coaching because they're tired of being told what to do and they're
Mhm.
tired of being told when they don't get the outcome or when they don't do the playbook exactly. They're tired of being told, well, you just didn't do it right. Because the development of your story is much more complex than that.
Mm.
But for the people who recognize the most valuable thing in your life that can change your life forever and give you the best ROI, return on investment, is a new decision. I watched it in your life. We met in a certification, and I just asked the question of you from what seemed to be the most important thing in your life, which was your family. And I
Mhm.
asked this question. You were talking about your business dreams, and your business dreams are amazing. You're going to have a huge impact. But I saw something in you when you spoke about your family for just a short period of time that had me pull on that thread. And you were like, wow, this is it. It wasn't me. It was just me noticing, falling in love with your story and seeing what was inside of you. And when I
Mhm.
brought you to that call, we went through a coaching journey, a process like you and I are trained to do. And then it surfaces and the tension comes. And I just saw a great example of this where a coach was, it looked like they were yelling at a basketball player. And she was like right in her face in the middle of the game. And everybody thought, you're yelling at her. Why are you being so harsh on the girls? She wasn't yelling at her. She was taking her into that moment. And she was saying, I believe in you. I know who you are. You're better than this. You can step up. You can get out of this. You can shake it. And the coach explained, you have to earn that right to challenge someone. She knows I love her. And so this isn't me yelling at her. This isn't me beating her down. This is me calling her forward. And that's what we deeply crave in our life is someone who calls us forward. But we have to have trust and be able to do that. And so you should immediately, when you're in that situation, you should start looking across your life and finding who is it that I can fully trust with all that I am and start taking risks in your relationships, friendships, especially in a romantic relationship, and start to see. And when you find a coach who is there and you believe that you can trust them, that's the biggest risk you can take. Because on the other side of that, it's a great risk. And it's the best risk you can take, because on the other side of that is probably one decision that will change the entire course of your life. And I've seen that time and time again in my practice. And so for me, I have multiple coaches as well. I have
Mhm.
three. And in the coaching that I'm part of, they all do something different. One is my high performance coach, which is, I always have one. My other is a group coaching community. And that's what I'd like to focus on more there is it's about the environment. It's a coach who is not coaching me directly. I have my one-on-one for that, but they're calling all of us into the energy of how do we
Mm.
go further. And great coaches, they inevitably do both of those things eventually, because there's that impact to be had. So if you're looking for a coach, I speak about this passionately because it's changed my life. Coaching has given me everything I've ever wanted in my life. And it's not because it handed it to me, it's because it called out the best of me. And I fell in love with that process.
Mm. I love that. What do you think, like when it comes to each day, how do you challenge yourself in your growth journey?
Mm. Every morning, you have a decision to make. And the first decision that you have to make is, what am I going to focus on? What is really hard for people is when they wake up, a lot of people, they wake up and they either are scattered, they have a lot of thoughts going on,
Mhm.
or they wake up and they're just kind of like, what's my to do list? Maybe they kind of go into a routine and they just kind of follow the routine. And if they're scattered, that could be a mess. Those are the people who are snoozing, even though they have a lot of drive. They're still snoozing in the morning, or they're just kind of lackadaisical. The people who are in routine, they're like moving forward, they're getting things done, but it's not, you're not feeling it. The most important thing I challenge myself to do every single day is to treat every day as if it truly is day one and the final day. I turn every day into a story. And so
Mm.
I wake up, and the very first thing that I do, the alarm goes off in the morning. I'm right next to the love of my life, and she's 100% in with me. And the first thing I say is, good morning, no matter how I feel. That's the good morning. And I bring energy into it. I bring like, oh, good morning. Like we just woke up on our honeymoon. Good morning. Right. And then we run our routine, we get together, and immediately I'm into breath. And I'm immediately thinking to myself the whole time, I have a mantra: I am light, I am love, I am presence, I am peace. I am summoning the best of who I am every single day. And if you're not feeling the day, if you haven't anchored this in as a practice and you're
Mhm.
not feeling the day, this is where high performance coaching changed our lives. You really are. Imagine you haven't summoned the person that people want to support, that people want to experience, and that you want to experience. And so, first thing ever, I challenge myself to treat this truly as day one and the only day. There is no tomorrow. I
Mhm.
build as if there's a tomorrow, but there is no tomorrow for today. And
Mhm.
so, that is the most important thing. And it's a challenge because in life, sometimes you wake up and you're like, Mark, I'm just not feeling it today. No problem. Maybe you're struggling with a sickness. So I still wake up and I still summon the best of who I am. And if it's a sickness, I build the plan for the day. Like I got sick, right? At one point, it was, today I'm going to honor and nurture my body. I'm going to rest. But I'm not sitting there being like, oh, I'm sick. Oh, this sucks. Oh, the weather. Oh, these things. Those are the natural things that your brain does if you're not intentional. I'm over there. I'm like, take it in the rest. Positive emotion heals. I'm sending gratitude messages to the people I love. I'm slowing down. I'm taking in all of the things that I already have. I'm circulating the gratitude in my life. This is what it looks like. So I'm showing you this is the real life challenge you face every single day. And so I challenge myself to that. And then I also set outcomes, right? I have goals right in front of me. I'm on a mission to build the most transformative coaching process on the planet. The
Mhm.
truth is, as you and I know, great coaches, like we have a lot of great coaches out there, but when it comes to how do you build a process where it's like the clients, they become immersed in the coaching experience, not just in the session, but in their life. It's like it becomes something that we create here becomes a new way of life. And so I think there's a lot to do to raise the standard there. I wake up every day and I am on a mission to continue to build that session by session and also lesson by lesson.
That is so beautiful. When you were coaching me, you would sometimes wear a sweatshirt and it would say honor the struggle. And it was kind of, I think, the first time I had really thought about that. For our viewers, what does that mean to honor the struggle?
This is probably the most important piece of wisdom I've learned in my life. And because of losing my mom at 9, I think the weight of this hit me earlier than it does most people. The problem with struggle, life guarantees you struggle. That's a
Hmm.
good thing. Struggle's not a bad thing. Like, we know that. It's the classic. If you're in the gym, if you struggle, you build muscle. If you build muscle, you live longer. Like, literally, like, it is incredible. We're built to go through struggle. The problem is what happens is people get sold either from their self or from other people on shortcuts. People get sold on getting an outcome faster without the pain. The problem with that is then people start trying to avoid the struggle. And if you're in business, this will destroy you and it'll destroy your employees' morale. Because what gets people to do work is that they see it as meaningful.
Hmm.
And so at first, they'll do work if they believe they have to do it in order to survive. But after that, the work has to matter. So I'll give you a simple example. As a coach, we create client notes in some form. At least I think every great coach, you got to create notes for them. It's really important. A lot of people I talk to, they would get frustrated about, I've got to get all my notes done. If you talk to clinicians, they have all these notes they got to fill out, and they're like, I'm behind on client notes. And they think to themselves, if only I didn't have to do that. And that's not honoring the struggle. The struggle is there's so many things I want to do and there's time, but I want to do it with excellence. Honoring the struggle is saying, I want to create a system that allows me to produce the most life-changing notes, but also to continue to serve more people. Honoring the struggle means loving the level you're on in life and not complaining about the challenges. And when there's surprise struggles in life, maturity is realizing, like, a great example, we had a little bubble in the roof of our house, right? There's a little drain leak from an upstairs shower. And a little bubble happens in the ceiling. I don't even know what that is. Like, that's not my forte. But we could see that and we'd be like, oh, we were busy. We had all these things we have to do. Or every time a challenge comes in our life, we honor it. We love it. I love problems, Pete. It's not fake. It's not Pollyanna. It's not trying to make things that are ugly beautiful. It's
Hmm.
seeing that on the way that we handle that bubble, the leadership that I bring, the figuring it out, the coming together as a couple to solve the challenge, that is actually the moments where we bond the most. We bond through struggle. You will not bond
Hmm.
through an easy, simple, like, hey, I got a Ferrari, you got a Ferrari, and we didn't have to do any work to get it. Cool, we're awesome. That won't do anything. You'll bond about, I worked so hard to create something that mattered here. And so honoring the struggle is assuming struggle is a part of life and it's a good part of life. And so whenever I have a client who has a struggle, I don't immediately think, oh, I'm sorry you're sick. I immediately think, oh, we got a struggle here. And I think, how are we going to honor this sickness?
Mm.
How are we going to work through this? Oh, you lost someone? I've grieved a lot of people in my life. It's not that you don't feel pain. It's that if you don't honor the process of growing through that pain, it
Hmm.
becomes suffering. And so if you don't honor the struggle, you're almost guaranteeing that you will suffer and be far weaker than you're meant to be.
Mm. I love that. What do you I think you mentioned it about, the process of self-talk. When people hear that, some people will take it one way, and then other people will leverage it and use it in a way that empowers us. How do you use self-talk in your journey?
I love this because so a lot of people talk about self-talk. When I think about it, I just think about it, it's the power of language. And so you're not actually talking to yourself. You're actually creating in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing I say is, how do I use it? I speak, I use language. I don't sit there and have a bunch of thoughts in my head. I turn it into language. I decide what all this raw material, these thoughts are. I decide what I'm going to turn them into. So first of all, you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are raw material for your own creation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I have that, then you think, how do I use the power of language? When we talk about self-talk, you might direct me like, Mark, like, Mark, you are light, you are love, you are, you are presence, you are peace. You might say that. The biggest thing is in your language, always treat it, I always treat it like this, as a lever you pull to actually shape the way you see the world, to shape your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first of all, I do think it's really important to consider the power of language and the effects that it has on other people. There was a really great podcast with Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozy. And if you're in our world, this is a fascinating one to watch. And, Tony just pointed out to Alex that part of the language he used suggested that, happiness doesn't matter. It was F happiness, right? That was kind of his mantra. And that's not what Alex meant at all. So for him, it was different. But for people who listened to him, that's what they heard. And so I think about it like this: self-talk, it becomes the way that you speak to the people who matter most to you. So I
Mm-hmm.
think of it, whatever you're saying when no one else is around, think of it as rehearsal. This is what people feel and experience and what you're ultimately going to say when you're in the heat of the moment and it's game time. And so this is practice when you're alone. And so practice the things that you would want to say to the most important people in your life. And if you do that, it becomes this really positive reinforcing loop, because all the thoughts that you have, you start to interpret what they mean. You create a story with your language, and that's where there's power. So simply put, self-talk is extremely important, but the reason it's important is because it's actually you crafting the story of what's happening to you right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
write a great story and write an inspirational story and avoid the biggest traps. Don't become a cynic for your own significance. That's easy to do. Don't become the smart one who sees the holes in the story. It's good to see them, but become the inspiring one who
Mm-hmm.
lives the story, who's on in the world. Be in the world, not in here. And so be in the world and craft a story with your language, with the way that you talk, that actually creates a world that you want to live in. And so I'd say it's probably the most important skill for leadership is your communication, and your self-talk is just rehearsal for that.
That's so beautiful. I like to ask people when I'm in conversation, like we're going through rapid change, AI is just moving so fast, and I'll ask like, how are you using AI in your business? And I'll listen to what they say, and just what you described, you can pick out how a person is able to adapt to change by the words that they say. So when you look at the rapid change that's coming, layoffs at the highest level, people being displaced, people that are connected more to their identity through what they do than who they are, what would you say to the people that are going through that rapid change, and how would Mark help them in that transition?
This is such a great point, because AI it's probably one of the most, it's so scary for people because they don't have certainty in something bigger than themselves. If you have certainty in something bigger than yourself, AI is just, honestly, it's just another expectation. The world brings things you never expect. When the internet came out, it did the same thing. Now, when disruptions happen, when we're talking about it, everybody wants to make today's disruption bigger than the other disruptions. I highly doubt this is more frightening to us than the Industrial Revolution was to a bunch of people who worked on farms. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think it is. I think for us, if you look at it, the people who are being born right now, they're not even intimidated by AI. They're just like, this is what it's going to be normal to them. So the first thing I'd say is, whenever I'm working with people, the real challenge you're facing is you're up against some important human needs. We have a huge human need for certainty.
Mhm.
And so what AI is doing is it's creating a situation where everybody is like, the world's uncertain, everything's crazy, everything's going to change, everything's going to be different, everybody's going to lose it. Immediately, you have to answer that question in a higher way. When you're working with me, we're going to ground your certainty in something that is more important than that. And
Mm.
so we'd ask, so regardless of how things turn out, who are you going to be? And so before we even get to talking about AI or technological shifts or whatever happens, because it might be AI, it might do war. Yeah,
Mhm.
I haven't faced that in my lifetime, but people do. And great nations fall. And so I'm here to prevent that. I don't want that to happen. But what prevents that from happening is leadership that stays grounded. And so, how are you, regardless of what happens, how are you going to show up? And a lot of people, and I really challenge them on this because some people, especially people of faith, their response is always going to be, we can easily go to, well, God's got me. And that, unfortunately, I'm going to challenge some people. If you're listening to this, you're a person of faith, and you think God's got me. It's true, but that can't be an excuse for you not to grow and change and step up to the moment.
So
This is
true.
really important. This is very challenging for people
Mhm.
because their certainty is in something outside themselves. God has got you. God, if that's what you believe, has equipped you to step up to this challenge, to
Mhm.
actually be a participant in this life, not wait until some ending. And so God has not called you. This is, I believe this strongly. God calls you into the best of who you are for your greatest contribution. God calls you towards your destiny. That call never says, sit there and don't worry because you might someday go to heaven. It says, get into the game
Yeah.
and be a testament of what's within you. And so you have to ground yourself in that. For me, I know no matter what happens, I would go to the death before I would compromise who I am. And as a person of who I am someone every single day. I'm just so honest about it. I'm going to be deeply present. I'm going to elevate the moment in whatever way I can. And most importantly, I'm going to lead with love and strength, even if it was, into a really tough situation or a struggle that we go to.
Mhm.
That's what Gandhi did. That's what Martin Luther King Jr. did. That's what so many people did. And that's where I challenge people when we think about AI, starting there, first, ground yourself in something like that. Don't assume that's for someone else. That's for all of us. That's why I'm really focusing on this idea of being a hero, is that everybody needs to have a hero in your life, not at one time, in your life. You need to have heroes in your life. You need to be a hero and you need to guide a hero as soon as you're equipped to. And so this is where you really want to do that from your identity. Then from there, from that grounded place, you got to create leverage. And so I am at the forefront of AI. I'm using agents. I am using the technology. I am in a community where we learn how to leverage them. And I am fully embracing and understanding. When the
Mhm.
nuclear weapon came out and it became, energy that you could use, some people built bombs. Some people protested and said this stuff shouldn't exist. And some people built one of the most efficient forms of energy that could quite literally get electricity to the entire world. And that is where I focus. I believe that we have the power to harness anything that's given to us. We should not fear it, but we should do everything we can to understand it. And so AI is something that we really love. And the way I'm using it, my mission is to learn how to use those tools to increase the amount of human connection I have.
Mm.
Because of AI,
Yeah.
I am in presence with people so much more. And when I'm with them, I teach them how to create things that allow people to get people into their life and fulfilling their destiny more. And so I would say this, simply put, my stance: do not anchor your faith in your work ever. Anchor your faith in who you are and how you're going to respond no
Mm.
matter what the world shows you. And then after you have anchored yourself in that, and that's proactive, that's every day, you're summoning that person, you're strengthening that person. And through every challenge, you're requiring yourself to be that person.
Mhm.
And then leverage whatever resources are in front of you. And with AI, get yourself someone in your life who is AI obsessed, and you can tell with evidence that they really know what they're doing, and let them teach you. You don't have to go learn all of it by yourself. Get in a room full of people where somebody is really equipping them, and just walk with them, learn from them, and fall in love with it, because you can create a lot of amazing things with AI.
Yes, you're so true. What do you think when you mentioned, I think earlier, the solo kind of entrepreneur? I don't know if you said that word, but what does community mean to you? Like, how important has it been in your growth journey that you could share with our viewers about the power of community?
Community is everything, because at the end of your life, whatever you create, we all know that what makes it feel meaningful is the people you get to share it with. And so I think what we need more is depth in community. Like, and so here's what I'd say. Let's say you're someone who's joining a coaching community. We
Mhm,
just recently joined a new one. We joined Dan Martell's Elite program. Good old Buy Back Your Time. Great
mm,
book, right? So we
mhm.
go into this community, and like all great coaching communities, I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not to say. I think everything. He's really just share what we're doing here. He's no secret. And what's great in his community is he's like, talk to each other, go connect with each other. So I, within the first couple days, connected with 10, 15 people. And here's the thing, when you're thinking about community, your life is, I really love this idea. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your relationships.
Mhm.
So when we join a community like that, we don't walk in and think, where's our next clients? Who do we want to be most like? Like, we walk in and we think, who inspires us here? And then we go try to have real relationships with them. And for the business owners out there, the solopreneurs out there, you're going to run into a lot of people who they really are only focused on you for the business opportunity. I wish that weren't true, but it's true. Especially as a coach, we've seen it. I don't know about you, Pete, but I have a lot of people who they're immediately trying to sell me stuff or get me in their program, right? It's
Totally.
constant.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I love being sold to, try to sell me your things. But if that's the only thing you're experiencing, that's not community.
Yeah.
That's transactional. So I would say for every entrepreneur, especially, make sure you have, I'm going to say 5 friends that are not entrepreneurs, that are not solopreneurs. Um, or if they are, they're in a completely different industry than you and they have no desire. Like I have a friend who, a great friend of mine, who's real estate, and I could be a fantastic coach to him. I've never offered him a session. We're just friends. And someday he might be like, "Can you coach me?" I coach my friends. I coach. I've had the privilege. I get to coach. My fiance. She loves that. You can coach anybody, and your friends and family will sometimes ask you. But I don't go. I have no desire to like turn that into a sale.
Mhm.
And if you find yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. If you find yourself kind of thinking about money more often, usually because you don't have it, just recognize that you really will find your path to more wealth when
Mhm.
you have a wealth of relationships. Just simply, by the way, for coaches out there, people don't want to hire somebody who has a lonely life.
Mhm.
It's like, there's no way they're going to be like, I want to hire you for a lonely life. The only way they will is if you have an outcome they really want, which is a lot of money. And so they'll be like, oh, you have a lot of money, so you must know what you're doing. So I'll hire you no matter what you're like, so that I can have a lot of money too. And that's a bad strategy, because you should look at who has created a life that is really, really inspiring to me, um, that I would want to be their friend. And I
Mhm.
would become the person I want to be if I were their friend, not the money side. And then also ask, do they have the principles and the ability to help you take outcomes as well? But when building community, make it a part of your life. Like you can't let that slide, because if you do, if you defer that till later, you're going to miss out on the most meaningful moments of your life. The
Yeah.
weddings, the honestly, the funerals, which can be really big,
Yeah.
and getting to be in the middle of people's real lives. My life has been really beautiful because I have always prioritized caring about the people in my life and building community.
Mm. That's so beautiful. I love it. And I remember this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago when I first heard the term level up your peer group and how Brendan teaches that. Like, what would you say? Because we fall into whoever's around us, like whoever we work with, whoever we go to church, whoever we have natural connections. How do you approach leveling up your peer group to stretch you and challenge you?
So good. So I love this question because this is the classic. I hear a lot of people say, especially when they're not very successful yet, or they got successful, but they really grinded to get there and they did it in a lonely manner. They'll say, you can't hang out with people who have lower level goals than you, that people will drag you down. They'll use words like energy vampires or, you know, these like people who just aren't at your level, right? And that's not true because a hero sees that and they say they're struggling, right? So I have three buckets. I
Mhm,
have my ultimate bucket. That's my growth friends. And
mhm,
my growth friends, that includes my coaches, like my clients, my coaches. If we can't consider ourselves friends, you're not the coach for me. Like Brendan Burchard, I don't consider ourselves like in-person best friends. I understand we have a relationship that's it's parasocial. We're not really connected. But if Brendan said I would never become friends with a client, I'd be like, I'd be like, why would you? Why? That's
mhm.
so sad. Tony Robbins, one of my favorite things is his best clients. They become like his best friends as well. It's just like any other service. You can become friends with the people you work with.
Mm,
If you can't, that's a limitation on you or them.
yeah.
And so knowing that, what's awesome is they're growth friends. And growth friends, what I love about them is that they level you up. They hold you to what you're being called to do.
Mhm,
They're awesome friends. They will challenge you, but they will love and honor you. They will earn that right. And so they proactively communicate with you. They are, when you reach out to them, they're getting back to you regularly and they are excited about your growth. You share your wins with them. They share your wins with them. You're so excited about them. Their wins feel like wins for you and
mhm,
you continue to grow. And you both are aiming. There's an aspirational nature. Those are my growth friends. Love that community. You're a growth friend. It's
mhm.
awesome. The other, right? I really have this bucket is kind of like they are my grounded, they're just like my homies. That's what I think about is that they're just like my homies. They're people that I see them every once in a while. If I see you, hey man, I'm excited about your life.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped to hear it. They probably don't want to talk about the next level with you. They probably honestly are trying to just not think about their life. They're
Mm,
just trying to have a good time. Have a good time, friends. It's awesome. And then there's a third bucket. And the third bucket is for people who they're so stuck in themselves that they can't connect yet with others. That's my compassionate love bucket.
mm,
And so that is, I've coached people who are in that position in their life. That's an honor. Usually, the people who end up in the compassionate love bucket, it's really hard for them because they've lost all trust. So they struggle to make friends. They struggle to be a friend. And if you let them closer into your life, they pull you down because they criticize you. They're not challenging you. They criticize you and they poke holes in what you're doing.
mhm.
This isn't making them bad. Just remember, this is the people who need us the most.
Yes.
They are struggling. So for me, those are the people where I inspire them, I encourage them, I show them the opposite of the pattern. I don't reject them at all. Compassionate love, like
Mhm.
for sure. I care about you. I want to see you win. I also believe that those are the people that usually they've been through really bad tragedy and they did not have a hero in their life. And some of those people, unfortunately, you can't walk with those people through the whole hero journey one on one. I work with a lot of people. We need more coaches who know how to work at that level. Most coaches don't even want to do that. Most coaches and even therapists, they want to work with easier clients, which is a terrible thing because they want to work with easier clients, but that group gets stuck down to people that they just don't want to connect to you. So
Mm,
that is where I always think I'm just going to shower you in love and appreciation and acceptance. But I am not going to proactively be putting those people on my schedule because I'm actually going to go with my growth friends and figure out how do we create something so inspiring that
mhm.
maybe those people could come and they would actually learn how to step it up and be a homie or a growth friend.
Mm, I love that. What would you, as what you know now, if you were to advise a 20-year-old Mark about a habit that you've learned in your journey, what would you say to that 20-year-old Mark that you could help them, or what lesson would they gain from that habit?
The most important habit I would give them is I would say, I used to say reflection. So I used to say, you got to journal. Like at the beginning and end of every day, journal. Find the best journal you can, start there, and commit to journaling no matter what. I would say that is still very high because if you journal, you will constantly have to come back and reflect on your experience, and you'll get better. People get better from reflection, not from experience itself. And so what journals do is they help you avoid rumination. A lot of people fall into rumination because they can't sort out their reflection. So some form of structured reflection, journaling, that allows you to make sense of what's happened, contextualize it, and learn about your life. That will take you further than almost anything. And if you can, you can go hire someone to do that with you. If 20-year-old me, the first thing I would say is go hire a coach right now. Like
Mm,
I would literally say, take out the student loans that you have and go hire like that you can take. I didn't take them out. I need them. Take out the student loans you have, use those for school because you have to use them for school. Then, with the money that you have, go hire a coach. And seriously, that'd be the first thing I would do is I would be like, go hire a coach that is structured in an awesome process. So, like a certified high performance coach, go
mhm,
find someone, tell them I'm 20, like this is my overall situation, and
mhm,
then try to make a deal with them to pay them a scary amount, but not a like crushing amount, a scary amount of money that you can work with them. I'm not saying go into massive debt over this. I'm saying make an investment in this.
mm,
And that's what Tony did, which was amazing. Brendan invested in tons of them. That really is, in my opinion, the fastest path to accelerating your growth. But the biggest habit of them all, if you get the coach and you have the journaling, the number one skill that you have, like if you want to change your life internally, you want to feel the best you've ever felt in your life, is fall in love with listening to people.
mm,
That is the skill that most of us really miss. Fall in love with listening to other people.
mm,
If you can develop, it's a skill you can develop. I worked very hard on it in my later 20s. But what I learned was I have changed more people's lives, and I don't change them, they change them. But I have helped people change their lives so much from the listening part of what we do. You need the challenge part, but if
yeah,
you can listen, if you really listen and you can enjoy it,
mm, mhm,
if you can enjoy listening to other people, you'll never be lonely throughout your life, and you will learn so much more than the people who they just can't shut up. And I was someone at 20 that I probably couldn't shut up.
mhm. Yeah, that is such great advice. They always say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and use use those ears twice as much, and it is something you really do gain so much knowledge in just listening and then asking the questions and listening to what is in that conversation. What is Mark most excited about this year?
I'm getting married. I'm so I'm so excited. We're touring wedding venues tomorrow, and I'm
Uh-huh.
so excited because it's so funny. You might have seen this online. I think I shared with you. You know, we got engaged at Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny event, right? So our engagement, Bridget and I, was this huge celebration. 3,000 people live cheering for us, pouring their love and like holding their hearts and reaching out to us as we celebrate this magical moment. And I realized, like in that moment, I was like, man, this is every day my most excited goal.
Mm,
Wake up, summon the best of who I am. Immediately upon summoning that, pour that into the woman I love. She's the most important thing in my life, and she always will be. And the thing about that that's so cool is that I'm so excited for every day with her. And what I love is I'm more excited about how that compounds. The longer that you do that in a relationship, it's not like for some people, it gets boring. That's because you're not fully doing it. You're not
yeah.
really pouring yourself in. You keep it going. It's like it continues to blossom and blossom. And the amount of people's lives we change, it is beautiful. I'm excited to be even more of a better role model for the
Mhm.
people in my lives. And I'm excited for the role models that are coming into my life. I think that as we go forward, you have a choice right now in your life to decide whether you're going to make this life inspiring. And
Mhm.
that's based on what you focus on. We're so focused on how we can see people actualize the best of who they are and give that as a gift to the world. And so
Mm.
I'm excited for every single day, Pete. And I really appreciate that question.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love hearing just what you shared with our community. You know, whenever you're in a tough situation, Brendan says it a lot, and I hear it a lot. Go serve. Go out there and just serve, whether it's a volunteer organization, just serve. What does that mean to you when you hear somebody say that that is an important part of our journey? How has that helped Mark in his journey?
Honestly, throughout my life, I think this is a secret that a lot of people miss. You're meant to serve other people. Like your life is, it's really what you're meant for. And what sucks is that most people are taught these days, especially when they go to college. I noticed this the first year I was in college. There was a speaker, and she kept saying, "This is your time to be selfish. This is your time to focus on you and what you want and your passions and all those things." And I'm listening to that person, and I'm like, "You just screwed up." I mean, like anybody who listens to this, they are quite literally going to suffer. It will not be what they think it is. It will not be a fun life. It will suck because I watch it. If you fall in love with serving other people, anybody, your life is so unbelievably rewarding. And the
Mhm.
thing is that when we say that, you have to be careful. Some people have a people pleasing pattern where they serve other people so
Yeah.
that they feel safe. If that's where you're at, you're not authentically serving them. You're just trying to serve yourself through serving other people. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just early stage pattern, usually out of fear. I gotta do what other people want, or I'm not gonna have people. I've been there,
Mm.
especially as a young boy who lost his mom. I've fallen into that pattern, but that's not it. The other side of that is I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna create the life I want, and that's great if it is. I want to serve other people. If it's not, you are going to be so hollow, and in fact, you're going to become obsessed with people validating that that's what you. That's great that you did that. So you get this whole nest of people who are self-interested, and they all are self-interested together going forward, and that's not community. What that is it's we all validate that I matter most, and that's a terrible thing. We're stuck in the middle of that right now. My hope is AI helps us out of that a little bit. Well, it could make it worse. The service to other people is what you're meant to do.
Mm.
And it feels good because when you're a kid and you authentically do something that makes your parents feel joy as a kid, that lights you up the most. It's built into us. It's not a flaw. It's by design. And the thing is that when you think about serving other people, once you realize that doesn't mean you do what they want. That means you think about something that people need and you meet their needs. It doesn't mean you placate to what people are asking of you. It doesn't mean if your friend texts you and says, "Hey, do you want to come out tonight?" And you're like, "No, I want to work on my business. Like, I need to work on business." That doesn't mean you're not serving them. You might be serving, but if you are constantly prioritizing yourself over others, you will be miserable. And in fact, like, just to be honest, if you're prioritizing yourself over others, then you're making the world worse.
Mm.
And that's a tough thing to hear or say. But if you're prioritizing yourself over others, you think that you matter more than the world. And that's not true. And if everybody acted like that, the people you need, they wouldn't be here for you. But if you're prioritizing yourself for the service of others,
Mhm.
same action, different mindset, you actually become one with the world. And if you do that long enough, you start to realize that we're meant to serve each other. We can't meet all of our own needs. It's impossible. And if you try to do that, that is an immature pattern. I'm not saying you're immature as a person. I'm saying it's an immature pattern that will ultimately lead to your suffering. And we need to be strong on this because the real cost is you suffer, the people around you suffer, and the world lacks real creation.
Yeah.
It's okay to serve other people. That doesn't mean you're going to lose yourself. You build yourself so you can serve them.
Mm, that's so good. You mentioned Dan Martell, and when I first read it a couple 3 years ago, he helped me discover the power of the genius zone. I would always do everything, and I would work as hard and as long as I needed. I had good habits like that, but it didn't serve me doing what I enjoyed and what I was born to do. How do you stay in your genius zone? Is there a process or something that you could share with us that helps you keep that genius zone front and center?
I love this. So what's great about Dan and why we joined his community, I joined, so just to be upfront, at this stage of my life, we joined Dan Martell's community because he role models building systems and he has the right values. His values are to be the example and to build the team,
Hmm.
right? And then to go use that for something bigger or something good. And so we're in the same boat. The problem is when you're early in life, you learn to build skills so that people will give you a job or so that people will hire you, maybe as the business. The problem is that your impact will stall at you. Like it's just a fact of physics.
Hmm.
And so what I ask every day is the question that good old Peter Drucker taught us in management. If you ever read management, I luckily have a good enough business background. I've learned some of these things. I ask, what has to be true for our outcome to be achieved? We want to build the most transformative coaching process and experience in the world. What has to be true? Well, one, I have to be out serving, coaching, talking to more people so
Hmm.
that we can recruit people who are interested in that to come and challenge that process, to enter the hero coach method and actually see what happens when they step into our world and they work with us and say, this is the most transformative coaching in the world. Or to say, no, I went to this one, it was better. And we'll immediately know. And we're here to compete in that sense to grow together. So, what Dan does that I think is super helpful is he reminds you that if you fail to build a system, you all ultimately are just basically saying, I'm capping my impact.
Hmm.
And so I don't prioritize. I'm different from Dan in this. Dan's buyback ladder is focused on how do you find the things you don't enjoy that like really suck your energy, and how do you do the things that bring you energy. I'm different. Instead, I ask myself, what is the most meaningful contribution I can make? And then I immediately start going to that contribution, have it, and then build a system for that to happen. I think we're saying the same things in different ways. I am not driven by what I enjoy as much as I'm driven by what I really believe is valuable and meaningful. At least
Mm,
that's what I believe.
yeah,
And so
that.
what I would say is you have to pick an outcome that stretches you to build a system. And once you have a system, so if you're practically speaking, if you're a business owner, you're like, I want to have 5 clients. Okay, you can get 5 clients, have a pretty good business. Actually, if they're wealthy enough, you can get it. But if you pick that, you'll never build a system, and eventually you'll just get stuck. Instead, you could ask, I want to figure out how to build the most transformative coaching business in the world, and then work backwards from that. And so I wouldn't say just to stay in your genius zone. I would say obsess over solving the problem, and part of solving the problem is getting other people's help. So if you find yourself getting stuck, the second you get stuck is the me time where you're supposed to go find someone else to help you go through it. And you should learn it. You should understand those things. Dan is so great at what he does because when he hires someone to help him, he has them teach them what he should be doing. And
Hmm.
he takes that, puts it into the system, builds it, and they build something bigger together. And that's what leaders do. Leaders work with the team to build something that empowers the rest of the team,
Hmm.
something bigger than them. It comes out better together.
Ooh, yeah, I love that the way you share that. So, what attracted you to Bridget? Like when you first made that connection, what was it that really kind of got Mark excited about that journey?
Honestly, Pete, so first of all, I had a vision for my relationship at the
Mm.
time. I have a new vision with her, but I created a vision for my relationship and I went on over 52 dates across an entire year. And my vision in the first date was to create a space where the people that I was with, I could create a space where they felt the most free to be them. I wanted to create trust in the world. So if you're in dating and you're struggling with this, doesn't matter what age, it doesn't even matter if you're man or woman, honestly. There's some differences there, but it doesn't matter. Create a space for the best of that person can emerge. If you do that, you'll start to see who they really are. Most people, when they date, they're evaluating. I'm not evaluating, I'm elevating. How do I bring out the best of you progressively? And in dating, that's where people struggle the most because they feel like they're going to be judged. So I have to create non-judgmental zone, lots of opportunity for you to become the best who you are. And I saw Bridget's, profile on a dating app, and I was like, wow, something's different about her. I don't know what it is. But when we first started talking, started with a phone call, I just did the same thing, bring out the best in her. And what attracted me the most to her was how she was so in love with a real vision. She said, I'm a person of growth. I want to grow. And so I was excited by that. That was initial attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But what really made me know I wanted to marry her was one phone call where I was on the phone with her and she was talking about someone she loved in her life. And I asked this question. I said, and you might be able to figure out right away, like, who is this person in her life? But I said, who listens to that person? Like, who sits down and really listens to that person? And her insight was nobody. And immediately after that, her insight was, I don't listen to that person. All I do is talk to that person and they listen to me. And so I wouldn't ask that question to criticize her. I just asked a genuine question that revealed something to her, an edge where she wanted to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
once I realized that, I was like, because this was an important person in her life, I said, how long until that happens with us? And this is like a month in, talking to each other. And I could feel it through the phone
Mm-hmm.
that she was like, whoa, she saw how that could happen. And she says, that will never happen. I will not let that happen. Right. But at the same time, she was like, and I can see how it could. And that was one of the biggest challenges for her to be in a relationship. And for about a week, she struggled with it. She was like, I feel like I'm kind of being pushed really far out of my comfort zone. I feel like I'm really on the edge. I know like we're really about growth, but this feels like a lot. And I met her in that as I know how to do. What ultimately happened was is she dedicated herself. She was going to face that. And she's going to become someone who cared about the people around her and listened to the people around her and thought about their needs above hers, but also shared hers, right? Not that it was worse, it's just that she would trust that other people would take care of her if she took care of them. And she saw that in our relationship, that's absolutely true. I focus on meeting her needs 100%. She focused on meeting my needs 100%. We're never thinking about, my needs getting met? Never thinking about that. Always thinking about meeting the needs of each other. And therefore, our needs are met more than most people ever experience. And it was because of how she showed up to that challenge that I was like, that's the kind of person. I was really scared that that could be the moment where we're like, this doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it would be sad. I really liked her. But when I saw how she responded to that challenge, honored that struggle, I was like, we can grow together in a way that people only dream of. And that's what makes a marriage work. And she loved it. And we've grown ever since. And those kinds of moments come up about every 6 months. A new edge gets revealed and we embrace together, whether it's mine or hers. And that's the kind of marriage I want. It's really beautiful. And so that's when I knew. I was like, that moment, I was like, that's how she shows up to that. That's what I'm looking for.
That is so good. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that. I want to be respectful of time. I could geek out. I love
For
talking.
sure.
But before I have one more question, but tell our viewers how they can get a hold of you, Mark.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're listening to this, you hear this, come follow me on Instagram. Like at Face My Fear is my Instagram handle. And I suggest you do that too. Face your fear. But come follow me on Instagram and connect with me there. I'll actually reach out to you. One of the things that I loved about Dan Martell is that he's a big fan of human connection. And
Mhm.
so I believe that we should connect. And so if something in this hits you and you're like, that was great, let's connect. And so I don't know what that connection leads to, but what I do know is this: let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about your dreams. Let's elevate our conversation to that growth kind of relationship. And let's just see what happens. And so if you vibe with this, come follow. I'm always putting stuff out on there. You can follow. If you're on LinkedIn and not Instagram, you can find me on there too. But come follow me on Instagram.
Mhm.
And if you want, this is something that you want to take your life to the next level, and you're like, I don't know where to go, let me know. I'll send you some information. I have lots of tools for you, but one of the biggest ones is if you're trying to figure out who to hire as a coach, I'd love to give you my tips on what I do on hiring a coach, what led me to hire Dan, what leads me to follow some people and not follow other people, my
Mhm.
principles for how I bring the guides into my life. That has been infinitely valuable. And I'm happy to send that over to you because I think everybody needs a place to start with that. And most people
Yes.
don't have that.
It's beautiful. What what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Probably the most important thing, if you're going to take one thing away from this, is to summon the best of who you are every day. Immediately make that your top goal. Tony Robbins says the most important decision you could make is whether you're going to live in a beautiful state or not. And the reason is just assume that whatever is happening in the world, it changes when you enter the world. You change the world by the way you show up to it. So develop a practice of summoning the best of who you are every day. And if you're struggling with that, talk to Pete, talk to me, talk to anybody. We have practices around that. It's not a crazy thing to do, but it can feel sometimes like an impossible thing to do. And so
Yeah.
that'd be the first thing I take away because if you don't do that, your state colors how you see the world. And if you don't develop a practice for that, you're never going to fully tap into your full potential.
That is so great. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your insights, your journey with our community. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.